Hey everyone, I'm back after what seems to be a very long reprieve from posting anything, but I've been really busy. Quite honestly, I don't know why I'm even smiling this morning. It's been a sad day for America, but honestly, it's been a sad few years for America and the world at large. I come here today with broken heart and broken hopes, not only for the United States where I was born and grew up, but because of the current devastation in what was once a once great nation. The United States is now setting the agenda and the political protocol globally across the world stage. The recent shenanigans with the former president Donald Trump in the Manhattan courtroom will unfortunately have a domino and trickle-down effect across the world stage at large, at least politically. And its repercussions will be like the shot heard round the world and will manifest negatively pretty much across the globe. And that, to me, as someone with family in Europe, in Canada, in the United States, that to me poses a tremendous problem. And quite honestly, shakes me and frightens me to the core. The United States of America, as once described by a estranged now but once close friend, differs from other nations, especially from his nation, Canada, my husband's nation, and in some regards, my nation, my second nation, differs from Canada in the sense and essence that Canada never fully achieved her autonomy from England or from the Queen. It was simply like that adult child whose parents allow him or her to live in the guest house at a minimal cost, or maybe no cost at all. But they're still under the scrutiny and to some extent and degree supervision of the parent, and must to at least a certain extent abide by their rules and regulations. Whereas America was that child that, dare I say, rebelled and wanted to break free and make their own rules and regulations. A nation that fought and shed blood for her rights to be an independent, autonomous, and free nation with her own rules, regulations, and understandings of life and how to live it. Regardless, or even so, it seems to me that we have taken those rights and privileges and the fact that we fought the good fight so long ago for granted. And we have dismissed entirely what it means to truly be free, to truly be American, and to truly be a leader. We are willing, at least it seems to me, we are willing to accept a less authentic existence. We are okay with everything that is being done to us, including what happened yesterday in the Manhattan courtroom. This debacle was nonsensical. As I say to my son, let's not make issues out of non-issues. And this, to me and for me, was exactly that, a non-issue. Now, I'm not going to say that I think that Donald Trump is guiltless. I think that all people, men, women alike, in power, don't get there because they always operate and abide by the rules in their entirety. And I'm not suggesting that he did anything salaciously, but people who succeed don't always play entirely by the rules. And we all know this, and for years have accepted this. In fact, we ourselves may have frequently or less frequently broken a rule or two ourselves. And yet, all of a sudden, we are making issues out of non-issues. If this were truly the case of our offense, that Donald Trump did something, dare I say, illicit, unsavory, then what about an investigation into perhaps the Obamas and the staff member that died on their premises? Not saying they had anything to do with it. Probably not. Most likely not. But I'm bringing it up because there's been virtually no questioning. How about the Clintons? How about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden himself, who full well knew what was going on behind his back in front of his face? How about former presidents who were known to be less than scrupulous? How about President Nixon, the Bushes, who, by the way, if you read their biography, there's some things that are questionable in their lives as well. How about President Roosevelt? How about President Kennedy, who was known to have had affairs behind his wife's back, etc., etc., etc.? How about Justin Trudeau? How about just any political figure from any period of time across the globe, including kings, queens, and Chinese monarchs? We're not talking about anything new here, folks. And yet, we are putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable, if you understand what I'm trying to convey. We are making a mockery of the American judicial system and of America herself. As I denoted just before, America was a nation that had fought for her independence from England, fought for her rights, for her freedoms, for her independence and her autonomy, for a way of life that was built on freedoms and rights to be unique, that were built to make us one nation under God, with morals and values that had a Judeo-Christian basis, a basis that we have been trying to eradicate for decades now. And yet, we somehow choose, yes, I'm saying choose, to turn a blind eye. Yes, we complain. Yes, we acknowledge. But bottom line is we the people are to blame because we the people continue to put our hope and our faith in people who are out for our destruction. I am quickly beginning to lose hope and faith, not only in our political leaders, because I didn't have much faith and hope in them from the get-go. Even those whom I vote for, and I trust more as the lesser of two evils. I understand the nature of the beast, but I am beginning to lose faith in people at large. The people who seem to be desperate for someone else to save them, for someone else to bail them out, for someone else to do their dirty work. And so they're willing, like up in Canada, to put in a court jester. Oh, sorry, Justin Trudeau in for a third term. Do they not see the devastation and decline he has brought to the country? Do they not acknowledge their own suffering? Are they that blind and, dare I say, stupid to vote for someone who has his, not their, best interests at heart? And where I once thought that the Americans were different, more boisterous, more vocal, more demanding, I am hard pressed to believe that we have devolved into such a ill-informed society that somehow, some way, and we know the way and we know the how. But I am hard pressed to believe that we voted in an unfortunately deteriorating senior citizen who makes Mr. Magoo look like an esteemed, coherent individual who could do a better job. I am appalled at yesterday's results concerning Donald Trump's conviction. We have not convicted Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib or Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton. We have not convicted Hunter Biden or Joe, and yet we are convicting a man for writing a check. If his wife doesn't mind, it is none of your business. It is none of my business. And yet, while we don't want him to impose his bad practices on society, we are okay with allowing legalization of drugs to infiltrate our society. Oh, that's a much better decision, don't you think? We are allowing people who are irresponsible, drug-afflicted drains on society to be excused of their responsibility for themselves, but we are holding Donald Trump accountable? Why? What did he do that was worse than what the drug addicts are doing, than what the illegal immigrants are doing, than what the convicted felons who we are setting free without repercussions doing? We are putting our priorities in the wrong place, people. And we are doing it because the puppeteers who are puppeting our politicians don't want to lose their power and their cushy lifestyles. And I know there are plenty of TV personalities out there, many of whom I watch frequently, in fact, nightly, whom I like, who I admire, including many on Fox News who are quick to point out the ramifications on society at large. But what you fail to understand and believe is that while they point out the fact that eggs, farm fresh eggs from chickens, from real live chickens, not cooped up in cages, but farm fresh eggs are now up to $13 a dozen. So if you and I don't want our children to eat eggs that could potentially have salmonella or cause diseases, we are now relegated to paying $13 a dozen. Milk in a bottle is $8.99, $9 a gallon. Regular milk is about $5 a gallon. And whereas many of these TV personalities and political personalities can still afford to pay for their luxuries, in addition to their necessities, you and I can't. And soon enough, won't be able to continue living in a lifestyle which is not luxurious, but is basic and which we have become accustomed to. Our rights and privileges are being stripped from us day by day, hour to hour, minute by minute, while Nancy Pelosi continues to have a $30,000 refrigerator full of $20 ice cream in her home. So I do blame us. We have sat idly by as if watching a soap opera, watching them take down Donald Trump. Why? Because like Mr. Nicholson said they can't handle the truth. They don't like the truth. They don't want the truth. And they intend on eradicating the truth. And anyone who dares to have the audacity and the guts and gumption to call out the truth. It wasn't that long ago when we saw globally, yes, it may have started in the United States, but it infiltrated the world on a global level, that ill-informed young adults with pie-in-the-sky ideologies were destroying statues of those who built their respective nations, tearing them down and destroying them to prove a point they fail to understand, a point they are blind to because they were not taught by teachers, but indoctrinated by perverted indoctrinators for their own political agenda. Our forefathers, for many nations, built the countries on rudimentary principles: faith and family. Principles that set the stage for normalcy and for the ability, because of that normalcy, to rise and be great and achieve. Principles that I noted: faith, family, religion, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to pursue the American dream, the North American dream, the Canadian dream, the English dream. The right to an education, the right to a good job, the right to go from rags to riches if you were willing to stop your bitching and moaning and complaining about 40-hour work weeks and having to work 5 out of 7 days a week, to put in the hard work, the dedication, and the time and effort needed to reach your goals. That's what our nations, and especially the nation of America, was built and founded and predicated on. And yet somehow the people who have benefited most, the young, overindulged, overcoddled, infantile young adults who've benefited the most from these policies, from these rudimentary foundations of their nation, those who have benefited the most take the most umbrage at the very fabric that has given them their rights and their freedoms, and even their right and freedom to protest the very ideas that have led them to this point where they can speak out against the very ideas that gave them their right to do so. That is sad, and it is pathetic, and it is a disgrace. And I blame the parents more than I blame the young adults and or children, because the parents are just as insane and try to be politically polite and buy into this rhetoric to prove that they're their children's friends or that they're cool. And you're neither cool or modern or anything you think you are. You know what you are? You're a dumbass. You're a dumbass because it was your generation and mine and generations before us that busted our proverbial tails, put in the hard work, and did what we had to do and were expected both by family and society to do in order to be able to afford our children better, just so that they can mock us and malign us for doing so. And then we show support for the stupidity. Does that make any sense to anyone? We have young adults who attend some of the best universities in North America, primarily in the United States, who are condemning the universities that are allowing them to attain bragging rights for their future. These overcoddled, overindulged, overentitled, spoiled brat adolescents, because they're not adults. Adults understand life at its core. These are adolescents using college as a party platform, not only political party, but party, drugs, sex, rock and roll. They're using college as a political and party platform to keep us, the people who gave them their rights and privileges, at bay. They clamor and clamber on about ideologies and lifestyles that they don't understand because they've never experienced them or lived them firsthand. They don't know what it's like to be my father-in-law, who would receive a tangerine for Christmas as a present because that's all his family could afford. And he would not see a tangerine again till the Christmas after. They don't know what it's like to be my mother, who at age 8 in Greece had to go to work to help put food and money on the table. They don't know what it's like to be my aunt, who educated herself, not through scholarships, not through having parents pay her way, but who went to work, not only as a student, but as a married woman and as a mother, and managed to work while also achieving her doctoral degree, while maintaining her job and her position as a wife and mother. These young adults don't understand any of that. They simply want life and luxuries handed to them because that's what we, the parents, we as society have taught them. They posture themselves as oppressed individuals when they in reality are more than privileged. Privileged enough to espouse ideologies from nations that would immediately, readily, and without remorse strip them of every privilege they have ever experienced and every right, including the right to protest the nation that they are living in and which affords them their privileges and luxuries. Let them try speaking out against the government in the nations that they claim to support and stand by. Not only would they be silenced immediately and effectively, but in many cases be thrown in jail and perhaps even put to death. Young ladies especially would not have the rights that they enjoy in North America and in the United States. They would have to leave their homes covered head to toe and not whore themselves out for any reason, political or otherwise. They would not be able to expose their bodies or their ideas, values, or ideals. These young ladies would not be allowed to drive or own cell phones. Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and many others out there who look up to you and who you are setting the stage for. Shame on you. These young ladies would, again, not be allowed to drive, own cell phones, go out in public without being covered, would not be allowed to speak up or speak out. And if they were married, would have to answer to their husbands. These young ladies would not be able to have positions of power or the education they achieve in North America and the United States. And yet they are out there chanting for America's demise. Marg bar America, death to America. Seriously? You may want to rethink your position, your posture, and about not, I repeat, not biting the hand that feeds you, both literally and figuratively. You ladies and gentlemen, are a disgrace to the nations that have given you your rights and freedoms. And if you ask me, you should be immediately and brazenly stripped of these freedoms and asked to leave. But again, I don't blame these young individuals who are easily influenced because they have yet to figure out life, because we as their parents have not allowed them to figure out life, but have made life way too easy for them. And anything that comes too easy is never appreciated. And that is exactly what is happening in Manhattan. Donald Trump's witch hunt was another outcry for death to America through death to democracy. Death to the principles that give us, the people, the right to have our own opinion, the right to choose the political leaders we want, we like, and who benefit us, who offer us something more than empty, shallow words and empty promises, more than stumbling idiots who can't completely complete a sentence and formulate a coherent thought. But they want to strip us of our rights to choose. They have stripped us of books. They have removed our statues. They want to strip us of the right to bear arms. And now they want to take away our right to choose. Except when they deem it okay for a choice to be made, such in the case as abortion. You have people out there clamoring and clambering to save the trees and to save the animals, both of which I agree with. I love trees. I love nature, and I don't think it should be bastardized or destroyed. Nor do I condone the killing of animals arbitrarily. But if I'm going to throw my weight behind saving the trees and saving the animals, how about we start by saving the humans first? By not allowing our nation to excuse drug use through the legalization of marijuana. And in many states, magic mushrooms and God knows what else. By not allowing adolescent children to make major decisions about their lives that will affect them for the rest of their lives before they reach an age of understanding where they can fully appreciate and understand the ramifications or the potential ramifications of such dire and severe actions. How about not bringing drag queens into the classroom? Heck, I don't want a heterosexual stripper in my kid's classroom. I don't care if boys are supposed to look at girls or girls want to look at Chippendale's dancers. Kindergarten, first grade, fifth grade is not the time or the place to be introducing them to such adult content. So keep your personal business and your life and your preferences out of the classroom. How about we put our focus on things like that? But again, it's all part of Marg, America, even if it's not the people in power who are saying it. The people in power are empowering those under them, those who they can easily manipulate and control to do the talking and the protesting for them. And if we don't do something, it's just going to get worse. We cannot allow death to America. We cannot allow death to any nation. And we certainly cannot sit idly by and watch death come to democracy. And I mean that globally. And yet, in one way, in one sense, I guess, I seem to find myself siding with the young zealots of today, the young, misguided, misinformed zealots of today, those who believe themselves to be sophisticated academic powerhouses, who attend our best universities and who still are advocating for our demise, who are screaming death to America. And yet, I firmly believe that they truly may be onto something. Did I just say that? Yeah, I think I did. In fact, I'm pretty sure I did. I think that we all, especially based on the outcome of what happened to Donald Trump yesterday in the courtroom, where a man who's done nothing worse than anyone else before him has done, and probably nothing worse than anyone who comes after him will do, and was still convicted of 34 counts of misdemeanors or something, simply because they don't like him and they don't want him in power. So if you can't beat them, silence them. So in that regard, I find myself also clamoring for death to America. Not a physical death, not a revolt. Well, not a revolt in the traditional sense, but I think we have to have some sort of revolution. Again, not in the physical American Revolution style sense, but some kind of spiritual awakening revolution in North America and the world at large. Yes, death to America. Death to America as she has become. Because America needs to be reborn. The world at large needs to be reborn. But as I stated earlier, America has always been the nation that other nations look up to emulate, that other nations aspire to become. The leader on the world stage, that sets the tone for policy, politics, protocol, and the like. We have fallen behind as a country, as a nation. We, as Americans, whether we continue to reside in the country or not, we as Americans are now looking to other nations for guidance. We are looking to other nations for ideas and suggestions because we are failing and failing miserably at doing our job, at living up to our own expectations that we imposed upon ourselves when we formed the 13 colonies and ultimately the United States of America. We have failed ourselves, and therefore we are failing our people, and we are failing countries across the world who look up to us to give them hope and inspiration. We are doing an abysmal and horrible job in upholding what it is our job to uphold our Constitution, to uphold the Bill of Rights, to uphold the Declaration of Independence, to uphold what it means to be a superior nation on the world stage. So we do need to die. We need to go through some sort of death and rebirth. So in one sense, yes, I would agree with these young, overzealous individuals who are calling for death to America, but for very different reasons. I am calling for a death to America as she has become. A death to the America that accepts unvetted immigrants on her shores simply to procure and secure votes for an unpopular party that is looking to physically and literally kill the people who they represent. I am calling for a death to an America that allows teachers to make decisions in academic environments that should be up to the parents to make, either autonomously or in collaboration with the schools. I am calling for death to America as a country that has made the aberrant normal and the normal aberrant, that has legalized drugs, but has maligned the traditional family, that is seeking to kill the nuclear family with mother, father, and children. Death to America that says that you can be whoever and whatever you want to be at whim, to define yourself. Biology and science be damned. In that case, why can't I identify as the Republican nominee for president, or as the new Queen of England, or as the president of a bank and take out all the money? There is no end if we don't put a death to that America, to that North America. I am calling for a death to America that allows salacious content, including CRT, to be taught in our schools. I firmly believe that people have rights. Live and let live, as long as you don't impose ideologies on me, my family, and especially on young children who cannot fully comprehend and navigate past the nonsense. I think that everyone has the right to work, to medical care, to live a life with dignity. I am the first to advocate. I honestly hate, loathe, detest, and despise when people say, oh, the black vote, the Hispanic vote, the Indian vote. Well, guess what? As the daughter of someone who fought in Vietnam, when you're in a foxhole, you don't give a damn about the color or religion of the person next to you. You are there to help them survive and they to help you survive. And if they are in need of help or you in need of help, you don't care if the blood transfusion or the kidney came from an atheist or a Catholic or a black person or a Spanish person or a white person. We all bleed the same blood. So it doesn't matter about whose vote. How about the people's vote? Because we are all people. And regardless of being black or white or Hispanic or Asian or Indian, we are all relegated to paying over $4 a gallon for gas. They don't make exceptions for white people, and they don't make exceptions for black people. And we are all relegated to paying $13 a dozen for eggs. And we are all relegated to housing shortages and high interest rates, regardless of religion and skin color and political preferences. So let's stop the BS now. Let's make sure all children from every background get a good education and are not deprived of the resources that are essential to attaining that education of excellence, so that they, regardless of creed or color or background, can go on and achieve their North American or American or European dream. That they are not held back because of the color of their skin simply for votes. That's a crock of crap, and it should never be part of any society. I never quite honestly understood black television. If a joke, it's funny, it's funny. I've watched many movies made by an entirely black cast and I've laughed. Why? Because it was funny. Funny is funny, regardless of what color the actors or the comedians or the people are. I just don't get it. I've never gotten it. So we, the people, are to blame because we are placing arbitrary labels on ourselves, on our peers, etc., that seek to categorize us, rather than categorize us as human, as people of a society, as people of a nation, as just people. So let's stop that crap right now. And let's look at the facts. Everyone was better. Even Canadians in Vancouver were screaming for Trump, because what happens in the United States affects our closest neighbor to the north, and they were doing better, and they had hopes. In fact, Trump's presidency gave rise to Pierre Poilievre in Canada, who's a very similar candidate and who I hope will stomp out the stupidity of the Trudeau regime. because Canadians deserve much better. They're not stupid people. They're great people who rose up against the indiscretions imposed on them during the COVID scamdemic. They are the ones who had their bank accounts seized. And if we are not careful, if America is not careful, it is coming to a theater near you soon. So yes, it is time for death to Canada, or death to America, or death to North America, or basically a global death in general. Every country needs to die before it can be reborn to normalcy, reborn to nations that are founded on principles that were meant for excellence and not to destroy their existence. Thank you for listening.